Hi peoples! The Epic of Gilgamesh is an ancient Mesopotamian odyssey recorded in the Akkadian language about Gilgamesh, the king of Uruk. The epic is captured on 12 incomplete Akkadian tablets, which was found in the mid-19th century in Nineveh, in the library of the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal, who reigned between 668 to 627 BCE. The gaps in the tablets have been partly filled by various fragments found elsewhere in Mesopotamia and Anatolia, and from 5 short poems in the Sumerian language, dating to the first half of the 2nd millennium BCE. In today's video, we will look at the meaning behind the Epic of Gilgamesh, explaining the various themes found in the poem. The epic introduces Gilgamesh as the mighty king of Uruk. He has built a great city. He does what he wants and takes what he wants from men and women alike. He overturns traditions because of his strength and power. He is a creature of pure arrogance because he does not fear any living or immortal being. The gods hear the cries of the people of Uruk asking for justice and decide that Gilgamesh needs an equal to counterbalance his strength. They create Enkidu to defeat Gilgamesh in battle and to teach him humility, which is their first attempt at punishing Gilgamesh for his pride. When Enkidu hears that Gilgamesh is stealing brides on their wedding nights, he goes to the city to confront him. His mission is to defeat Gilgamesh and punish his arrogance. However, the gods' plan to make Enkidu the nemesis of Gilgamesh backfires. Gilgamesh defeats Enkidu, they become friends, and the king introduces the wild man to his way of life. Together, Enkidu and Gilgamesh begin to set themselves against the gods and win over and over, which only increases Gilgamesh's arrogance. This arrogance leads him to attack Humbaba, a monster who was created by the gods to protect a cedar forest. When the heroes have defeated Humbaba, the giant begs for mercy. However, Enkidu urges Gilgamesh to kill him and risk the wrath of the gods. Gilgamesh kills Humbaba because he cares more about the praise from people than about pleasing the gods. Once again, he is in the grips of hubris, and now Enkidu is encouraging it. The goddess Ishtar then approaches Gilgamesh and asks him to be her lover. Gilgamesh not only refuses, but refuses with a mocking song that insults the goddess and her past lovers. It was Ishtar's priestess who tamed Enkidu and made him into Gilgamesh's friend. Yet Gilgamesh has no gratitude. Instead, he seeks to show that he is superior to the goddess. The gods then sent the bull of heaven, who can cause earthquakes, as punishment for mocking Ishtar. When the heroes kill the bull, they both taunt Ishtar, showing that Enkidu has now become as arrogant as Gilgamesh. As punishment, the gods send a plague to kill Enkidu, and so both heroes experience defeat. Enkidu dies and Gilgamesh loses his best friend. Gilgamesh then goes on a quest to discover immortality, but he fails and must face the fact that he, like all mortals, will not outlive the gods. Because excessive arrogance can overturn both the human and the divine realms, it necessarily leads to punishment that restores the right order of things. In the epic, this also serves as a warning to readers to be humble and remain true to their predetermined places in the universe. Throughout the Epic of Gilgamesh, there is a sense that even among the gods themselves, there is a tension between the wilderness and the city. Some of the gods create Enkidu to be a counterbalance to Gilgamesh, a man of the wilderness to defeat the arrogance of a city man. On the other hand, the prostitute who civilizes Enkidu is a priestess of Ishtar, whose temple is in the city. The god Enlil created Humbaba to protect a cedar grove and stop men from taking the trees. Yet another god, Shamash, sends Gilgamesh on a quest to defeat Humbaba and open the grove to logging. In the story of the flood, Gilgamesh learns that the flood was caused because the god Enlil hated the noise of the cities. There is a tension between the gods worshipped in the cities and those worshipped in wild places. Enkidu demonstrates this tension between the wilderness and the city, with the idea that a person can only belong to one or the other. He begins his life in the wilderness, living among the animals. They allow him to drink their milk, and he protects them from hunting. He sees other humans only as predators. When Enkidu meets the priestess of Ishtar, He loses his connection with the animals, and they become afraid of him. The woman instructs him in the ways of the city, and she takes him to a small settlement of shepherds at the edge of the wilderness. This is a liminal space, a doorway, and a place where he undergoes his transition from wild man to hero of the city. Enkidu adopts organized religion and asks to pray in the temples of Uruk. He wears clothes. He learns to eat bread and drink beer. He protects the herds from predators. With his embrace of civilization, he has become wise and is compared to a god instead of to a wild beast. His transformation into a man of civilization is now complete. Enkidu is now prepared to go to the city and confront Gilgamesh man to man. But Gilgamesh, the urban man, defeats Enkidu, the man from the wilderness. Enkidu becomes Gilgamesh's friend and begins to enjoy the luxuries of the city. He will only return to the wilderness when he is looking for creatures to hunt and kill. His city self is a polar opposite of his wild self. Gilgamesh, on the other hand, is purely a creature of the city. For him, the wilderness is a place to exploit for resources and hidden knowledge that will improve the city. Gilgamesh ventures into the wilderness with Enkidu to defeat Humbaba and make the cedar grove safe for humans. His goals are to gain fame and to protect his people from the monster. Later, after the death of Enkidu, he enters the wilderness to search for the secret of eternal life. The wilderness is a place of knowledge unavailable in the city, and presents him with challenges that change his relationship to his destiny and the gods. Finally, failing in his quest, Gilgamesh returns home, and he concludes by praising his city and its strong walls. The city is represented as being the product of humanity's fall from innocence. Cities prompt Enlil to destroy the world in the flood and attempt to go back to an earlier, quieter time. Enkidu can only become a man of the city by losing his innocence and connection to nature. In the city, the king rapes young women and claims their innocence for himself. The yearning for a return to a simpler state of nature, while also embracing the comforts, order and wisdom of the city, illustrates the universal human tendency to dream of an idealized past, while also feeling attraction to the concept of progress. From the opening moments of the Epic of Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh wants to be a great king, but he does not understand what makes a king great. He has built a strong city with fine walls, but he also attacks and defeats the young men of his kingdom. He seeks opportunities to prove that he is strong and undefeatable. He wants fame. When Gilgamesh meets Enkidu, his first instinct is to test him in battle. His desire to be remembered is the driving force behind many of his actions, both the heroic and the cruel. As Gilgamesh and Enkidu later prepare to seek out Humbaba and challenge him to battle, Enkidu is focused on the difficulty of the coming battle, but Gilgamesh urges him to think about how future generations will praise them even if they die. Gilgamesh is focused on his legacy. He wants to have his name stamped on bricks that will last long after his lifetime. How he will be remembered is more important to him than what he does or how he dies. After defeating both Humbaba and the Bull of Heaven, Gilgamesh seeks out the admiration of women, encouraging them to tell him how brave and strong he is. But Enkidu's death changes Gilgamesh. He must grapple with the harsh reality of death and decay, and the fact that life comes to an end. Gilgamesh does not want Enkidu to be forgotten, so he works to preserve him in the city's memory. The king erects monuments, mandates citywide grieving, and holds a large public funeral. He recognizes that with a death comes the responsibility to remember a life. But Enkidu has Gilgamesh to preserve his memory. Who will mourn for Gilgamesh? Gilgamesh's thoughts turn to his own horror at death, and he decides he must avoid suffering Enkidu's fate. He therefore seeks to find the secret to eternal life, so that he will never be dead and forgotten. He won't need other people to tell his story if he is alive to tell it himself. Both the girl in the seaside hut and Utnapishtim advise Gilgamesh to stop trying to avoid death and instead to live well and enjoy the present. However, his fear of death and need to be remembered propel him onward. He risks his life to find the plant of eternal life and youth. After the snake steals the plant of eternal youth, Gilgamesh mourns, wondering why he even bothers to try, when no one saw what he did on his quest. Without an audience, why strive for greatness? At the end of the poem, though, Gilgamesh realizes that his city and his journey are what will keep him in memory, even after he dies. He can finally accept his mortality, because his great city and its carved walls will tell his story. Because all humans are mortal, every person must grapple with the reality of death, the longing to be remembered, and the question of what happens after death. The Epic of Gilgamesh is one of the earliest entries in this conversation, which still occurs in literature today. In the poem, Enkidu gains companionship, community, and friendship, and they change the entire course of his life for the better. Enkidu begins life as a wild man. He is king of the animals and has no equal. But when he meets the priestess of Ishtar, he realizes that he needs other people. While he is initially attracted to the priestess's beauty, the woman becomes his teacher. She teaches him about the gods, about civilization, and about friendship, and fills him with a longing to learn and experience more. She acts as a friend and guide, giving Enkidu the skills he needs for his journey. Enkidu finds acceptance and meaning among the shepherds and stops yearning for his old life. He contributes to the community and partakes in communal meals. He protects the flocks. When he hears that Gilgamesh is harming his community, he takes on the role of a hero and goes to confront him. Later, Enkidu becomes Gilgamesh's best friend. He protects him, fights at his side, and urges him to greatness. As he dies, Enkidu initially curses everything that took him away from the wilderness, but reflecting on his friendship with Gilgamesh makes him realize that the suffering was worthwhile, because he had friendship and community. Enkidu was also a vital part of the community in Uruk. When he dies, all who knew him mourn him, because he was one of them. Through his friendship with Enkidu, Gilgamesh learns to value other people, and eventually becomes a great king instead of a tyrant. He must learn to value someone other than himself before he can become a good ruler and member of his community. Gilgamesh begins the story feeling that he is closer to the gods than to humans. He has no equals, and he preys upon the people he is supposed to lead. Without community, he is monstrous. When the gods send him dreams, his mother interprets them to mean that his equal, someone who could be his companion, is coming. Gilgamesh is filled with a desire for friendship. He longs to meet this person who will understand him and support him. And once Gilgamesh befriends Enkidu, he changes. Where once he preyed upon his own people, he now goes out into the world to defeat monsters like Humbaba. With a friend and community, he is willing to turn his appetites to productive and heroic activities. When he loses Enkidu, Gilgamesh can take some comfort from the fact that he is part of a community of mourners. He is horrified by death, but not overcome by that horror. In the end, after all his adventures, hardships and losses, Gilgamesh returns to his city. He also seeks connection with Urshanabi, the ferryman, who has been cast out from his home. Gilgamesh introduces him to the city and invites him to join the community there. The bonds of love and friendship supersede the bonds of erotic or romantic love in Gilgamesh. While Enkidu is initially drawn to Shamat the priestess, he abandons her once he discovers friendship with Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh plans to marry the Queen of Love, but abandons this plan once he discovers the joy of friendship among equals. Enkidu urges Gilgamesh to become a better man and helps him achieve great deeds. Their friendship restores order to the city, while Gilgamesh's unchecked erotic love had destroyed order. The erotic and romantic love of Ishtar towards her lovers is depicted as destructive and deadly. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, the poet demonstrates how friendship is a powerful force that changes people for the better and draws them into the community. This community is where people find happiness and the support to do great deeds. At the beginning of the epic, Gilgamesh has become a force of chaos. While he has built a well-ordered city, he is now preying upon it and overturning traditions designed to preserve it. The gods respond by creating Enkidu, a wild man, to balance him out. While Enkidu might first appear to be chaotic, his life in the wilds is actually well ordered. He knows his place, he defends the creatures, and he protects the land. When Enkidu goes to the city, he provides a counterweight to Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh stops preying on his people and briefly embraces order. However, Gilgamesh throws the world and the gods out of balance again when he slays Humbaba. Some of the gods wanted Humbaba slain, but others did not. Gilgamesh throws things further into chaos when he not only rejects the goddess Ishtar's advances, but also insults and humiliates her. A human insulting a god throws the order of things out of balance, because it is the god's place to determine what order is. The gods retaliate by sending the bull of heaven. The bull appears as an agent of chaos. It causes earthquakes and crevices that swallow people whole. However, its task is to restore order by killing Gilgamesh. Together, Gilgamesh and Enkidu slay the bull. Then, they once again mock Ishtar, throwing the severed head at her. This continues to sow chaos in the order imposed by the gods. The gods respond by sending a disease to kill Enkidu, which restores balance. It punishes the pair for disrespecting the gods, and it causes Gilgamesh to shift his goals and focus to finding the secret of immortal life. When Gilgamesh is close to obtaining immortal youth, which would have at least kept him from dying of old age, a serpent appears and steals his magic plant. A Gilgamesh who never aged would have been a force of chaos. Instead, Gilgamesh returns to his city, praises its well-ordered plans, and becomes a great king who maintains balance. To those who live in society, a world out of balance is dangerous and chaotic. Chaos is destructive and dangerous. Both the gods and the people of the city depend on order to survive and thrive. And so heroes and kings are tasked with preserving order and balance. As always, thank you very much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Till next time, bye bye.